time wakwa baby oba amansan television and GNTV so and area bio sa afi no afidie no de ato a meka o se dwumade no eye asemidika na ye de ebre o se de wonim no na o hwe yen a ebia wonni efie na wo TV no emenwa obetumi ahwe yen wo your Facebook page ATVGH you stream live for her connect share page in my share the page, send the link to people na if our comment so at the same time to her mommy na you can mediani attack ekubuedi akraba akopa me wo Ghana na me hye Ghana me fra Ghana na me bibia akwa Ghana me na me ti edwamu a yedi enkomo eno ye kwaje kato na me catch us ye ba ye bidi nkomo afa Ghana sikasem ho bebia ye dro no obia jetu including omampani say enema enkoye but come here say yenya so now we are struggling to find a solution to problem na e face o man. Have you been able to identify the problem? That is one question. And what are the solutions? If we have identified the problem, then we need to have solutions to this to the problem or these problems. That is what we are going to discuss today. Now, yeah, share the general outlook of Ghana's economy. Or minus you see ye come see a person we want to look at it. Key areas here, a person here discuss is about inflation. Ye share said ye is the amount for aka ede afra ho policy rate and say aban peja ede call so o share krata bi damanim today me am krata Monday in the assembly betu dwa o say Ghana listed among 10 countries globally at risk of debt distress ni nyina ASEM ye bedi ehon komo na enne me guests for the first time me na ye interviews be brave but always all the time you Zoom but unfortunately no menya no studio ha ya onye Ghana ni a sebe onye hoho pa Ghana sikasem we kire na adwen a Ghana dodo na eni na ya waka nsem bebre a kire na adwen woni ma bebre ho Professor John Gatsi na ene waye me guest a me ni edin komo papa yi waye ochirekirefo pani kese ewo University of Cape Coast ewo Central Region one na ye Dean of School of Business ewo school monti yese ni nimdie efa sikasem ho ne de sebe mpeduasa bruni beka se undoubtful se obetumi aka se oh we there hwan na wakofa na besi abeka wonim anything that is why he's here but the unfortunate part of him say ni twi nye wontumi nka twi no enunti obehwa interviews amene na ye nyina na ya na ye ne potokasem eti na mesre metiefo ene mahwefo se momfa nche yen se ye discussion no ye be ye no minim se if I speak she to you Professor Gatsi, if I speak she to you in she I speak to you she I ask my question in she you can understand and explain it in English. Some one funny thing is when it comes to economics sometimes some of the terms getting the even the tree vocabulary becomes a difficult thing. So young fanchain na yen kone said ye kono. Professor Gatsi is my guest today. Ya obebwa ama yati enema ase. Koso na send a message from mama me share page na emwa bibia. I welcome you to ATV Prof.
Thank you.
How is life treating you?
By the grace of God.
Okay. Now let's start and see the general outlook of Ghana's economy. You've been speaking, you've been talking, you've been saying so many things about this economy, and today we are grateful. It gladdens our heart that you are here with us to share some of the things that you've shared, your perspective on Ghana's economy. But I want us to start with the inflation situation. On the 12th of this month, last month, May, Ghana Statistical Service came out and gave us the inflation figures, the April inflation, right? And I just want to give you the figures and you address them for me. After the GNSS has said it, some other people also came and spoke, including the Minister of Finance, Mr. Ken Oforiatta. Now, according to Ghana Statistical Service, the April inflation rose to 23.6. As against March, which was 19.4. Now, he gave reasons why we got to that point. And if you look at what he said, the main drivers of the inflation, he mentioned about transportation. He mentioned about food. Then non-food inflation, And the figures, I think you know them already. So I don't want to bore my viewers with these figures. But the figures are there where we saw some kind of rise in these figures. Why did we get there? What accounted? Though they have given us the drivers, but what could we have done something to escape what GSS said push us to this level?
Okay, thank you. Well, there are many things that we could have done, and this thing could have been done earlier. So that relate to the efficiency of policies that we've been implementing.
Okay.
Now, if you know, for a very long time, we have divided our inflation into food inflation and non-food inflation.
Okay.
And normally the non-food inflation has to do with items that we import, normally for what we call intermediate activities. So what it means is that we have industries that are producing, but some raw materials are not in the country. They bring them in for further processing, and that is not a bad idea. It's part of economic engagement. What countries don't want is to be importing what they have ability to produce. Okay. But over a long period of time, we started disengaging in activities that lead to production of items that we have ability to produce.
Okay.
So if you read our constitution, upon everything that we talk in economy cycles, the constitution projected two important things that government and our economic engagement should not avoid. That is one, industrialization and agriculture. Now, we have actually backslided on agricultural policy and activities. That is why you realize that we've started importing agricultural produce into this country. Now, if our agricultural policy, as indicated in the Constitution, is taken seriously, and we have policies that will have reflection on what we call food security and low cost production of food items, and then relatively low prices of food items, then what it means is that even if the non-food inflation, or in this case what we are calling imported inflation, escalates, the lower non-food inflation would have accommodated the increase in imported inflation.
Okay.
So if you ask, what did we not do well? The first thing is that we are backsliding on agricultural policy
in this country.
But
Prof,
when you look at the data,
okay,
you will see the rise in prices for common agricultural produce.
Okay.
Take okra, increase by 65.2%. Take corn, take condo,
okay,
take wheat, watermelon, mango. These are all things we shouldn't import from anywhere.
But we are importing them.
Yes.
Okay.
That is one. Now, when I say we are importing them, what I mean is that when we go to the market and we look at fruit juices, some of them are coming from watermelon, mango, orange, and the rest. There should not be any reason why we should be importing fruit juice into this country, perhaps in excess of 5%. There should be no reason. So these are the failures I'm talking about. Now, we have also noticed that the cost of engagement in agriculture have been unnecessarily expensive. So if the cost of engaging in agriculture is expensive, it will reflect on the prices. So that is why you see food prices going up. Now, in many countries, there are specific number of agricultural items or commodities that have been identified and taken care of with interventions. You see, when you go to Europe, America, Canada, Japan, and the rest, they have policies that support, we call it here subsidies. Those who engage in the cultivation of those crops and agricultural commodities. Over here, we are even fighting to believe that we could give subsidies on fertilizer to our farmers. So it is all about weak policy towards agriculture, and as we continue to do that and we move on, it continues to bite us.
Okay.
So someone will say, like the minister said, or Ukraine, Russia, and the rest. Do you think if our agricultural policy is such that those who involve in agriculture are supported and they effectively do that, pricing regime is good, marketing value chain is very robust, to the extent that the marketing architecture is linked with the financial system, they get the support they need to do to engage in agricultural off-taker structure is very much available in the country. Do you think that we'll be saying there is war in Ukraine, there's war between Ukraine and Russia, and as a result of that, our prices are going up? Never. So yes, it is a fact that something is happening in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. But the question is, if we were to be engaged in the right policy, what should have been the effect of that on our agriculture? Right. It should have been low.
Low. Okay. So, Prof, let me come in and then find out this. So we've established the fact that indeed we have not paid the needed attention to agriculture policy that we have in this country, and for that matter, that is why we are going through this kind of problem we are having today. The example that you cited, for example, the fruit juices that we import from elsewhere, we could have processed them here, and then don't spend hard currency, I'm talking about foreign currency, to import these ones. Now the question is, let's take this government for example. This government came with a policy, one policy just to boost the agriculture sector, and that is planting for food and jobs. So attention was given, the needed support was given to the ministry and all the related agencies and everything to make sure. So at a point in time, government was even basking in the glory that, in fact, we are going to be a net exporter of food and other things, talking about these things. So what has been the reason that this policy, because you were talking about policy, and I see this one as a policy, do you think this planting for food and this thing policy has failed? Or it's better only that we need to do more?
Yeah, it's a good policy, but it has not lived to its expectation. Now, the different aspect of that policy, planting for food
and jobs.
So if that policy is working, then we shouldn't have prices of food item escalating. If that policy is working, we shouldn't get to a point where some of these basic things like tomatoes, onion, will be imported from desert countries. Shouldn't happen. So yes, the policy is good, but it's not living up to expectation. Now, the policy should also create jobs.
Okay.
Now, we are not sure about the jobs that have been created out of this policy. Anytime they speak about the job, it's discredited, and those who discredit the job that the policy has created sound convincing than the response that the minister in charge of agriculture gives. So it's very basic. they want to focus on producing for food so that our food will be easily available. Then it will be at a cheaper or relatively accommodated prices.
Okay.
Is that what we are seeing? The answer is no. You remember at the time that the minister was glorifying the success of planting for food and job. That was the time that our women traders were going to Burkina and Co. To buy tomatoes, and they have to call for police protection to go and buy those things and sell in the country. Even at that time, the minister claimed that the policy was so efficient that it was delivering on its mandate. So these are the things.
Okay.
So when we pay serious attention to these things, I believe some of the problems we are facing will not be there. So nobody is doubting COVID-19. Nobody is doubting Ukraine and this thing. But the question is, if we were to be doing what we're supposed to do, what should have been the effect on us? The effect would have been lower. There are many countries in this world. The effect of Ukraine-Russia war is they don't even talk about it in their country because of the structure that they put for themselves in agriculture and other areas.
Prof, let's look at this. Let's dwell on this issue. Talking about the agriculture aspect of our economy and this kind of things. First, let me find out. You are talking about the policy is good. Probably the implementation of what they needed to do or they should have done, they didn't do it.
How can you be ensuring that we plant for food, that it will be abundant, so that we can even send some outside? But at the same time, you claim that certain input you cannot support farmers. Where are you going?
Okay.
So these are the issues. We're importing chicken into the country. Why can't we have across the country plants or people who can produce in the quantities the feed for poultry? Why is it that we give license to importation of poultry, which in some cases within 3 weeks they become mature and they slaughter and put on our market? They inject some chemical into their bodies. When we can produce poultry and its related issues in the country with less chemical and the rest. So these are the issues that we need to address. So it's not about giving slogan about planting for food and job.
About doing what
we are doing.
Okay, so for instance, you expect that we have Agriculture Development Bank. It's one bank that is its core function is to support agriculture. That I want to believe.
That's misleading.
Okay, well,
it's misleading because you see, when agriculture was given attention, that was when these banks were put in place to focus on agriculture. But along the line, the focus has changed. We changed even banking licenses from agricultural banking to universal banking. So the license they are holding is a universal banking license, which means they can't veer into any area at all. And even in agriculture, the area that they are focusing is mostly more export crops like cocoa, cashew, shea butter, shea nut, rubber, and those things. That is good. But if you look at those who engage in crops, normally the auxiliary infrastructure that is needed to keep those produce cheaper for Ghanaians, fresh over time, are not there. We don't have proper storage facilities across the country. It's not even available for farmers to easily buy. So if you are talking about agriculture, it's not about announcing planting for food and jobs alone and supply only seeds to the people and let them buy fertilizer at half price. That is not.
What should they have allowed them to? How much do you are you expecting, or were you expecting government should do in terms of the fertilizer supply and all that? Because people have raised issues of this fertilizer supply and other things. You were talking about subsidies. So what should government do?
No, I think I talk about subsidy in context.
Okay.
If we identify some crops that are so sensitive to our consumption in the country, and the moment prices go up, it affects average families. So what should we do? Those crops should be available at cheaper price. What should you do to support that sector? So I'm not actually talking about subsidy across board.
Okay.
Yeah. So subsidy that will actually be beneficial to the economy, livelihood of people. That is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Now, if it is fertilizer, why not? If it is something else, why not? But the point I'm making is agriculture in all countries is not left in the hands of private engagement such that the state cannot provide some subsidy that will make their work efficient. It happened everywhere in the UK, in European Union countries, in Brazil, in the US, Canada, and the rest. That is what they do. Even Ukraine and the rest. If they don't have a structured support, they will not be leading in the supply of wheat and coal to many countries. So the point I'm making is we need to rethink about how we structure agriculture. If you see people, as we are talking now, when mango season comes, you see how it's scattered across. Okay, and then within a short time, that is the end. Is it possible we can provide some kind of storage? Is it possible we can increase the conversion or the processing of mango into more mango juice that will stay on the shelf more in a manner that does not contain so much chemical as we see relating to others? Watermelon, if you go to area that they produce or they engage in the production of watermelon, you see how it spoils around, it gets rotten along the road. Okay, so within a short period of time, we say the watermelon season is over. And
even if it's over, you should still have some stored.
That's how.
Where we can
so those are the things
that we can. So talking about this,
and all that we're talking about is also leading to job creation. It's leading to
Okay. So Prof, you look at this thing you are talking about. So we are talking about facilities that we can use to process all these things and then keep them, store them. That is one. Two, people are talking about ready market for this farm produce, and then our roads, because I have had opportunity to speak with some farmers where they will tell you that even where they are, even when they harvest their crops and what have you, bringing them to the city or where people can even patronize is a difficult thing. And we live in a country where this thing came that cocoa rose or something rose. So our farmers are in the hinterlands somewhere. They do their thing, everything. Now we are even in the rainy season. When they want to bring some roads, they can't even travel on those roads. So the ready market itself is also not there. What can we do to ensure that we have ready market where even locally we can still patronize, and at the same time, if you want to even export, we can do same as well?
I'm not sure ready market is not there for our farm produce.
Okay.
Ready market is there. But what it means is to create long-term market.
Okay.
That is where processing, storage, infrastructure comes in. So when you hear people talk about cocoa rows, what it means is that they have conceptualized the fact that cocoa is contributing a lot to the economy of Ghana. And most of the people who engage in cocoa farming are in the hinterland. They have assessed the difficulties they go through in trying to bring cocoa to, I will not even say the cities, to the license buying offices or centers. It's very, very difficult. So why can't you construct roads to link these areas for them? And why can't you also construct hospitals accessible to these people? That idea should be transferred or translated to other crops that we have. If you take corn, do we have areas that we identify? Corn can be grown anywhere in this country, but do we have areas that we can say that for them they are our food basket in terms of corn, okra, tomatoes like Akumanda area and co. So when we zone the areas, then we look at their infrastructure and see what we can do about the infrastructure. Every year, we don't boast about the number of roads, quality roads we construct in those areas. I think what is now on the table for politicians is how many overpass have you built, how much was the cost, and how much was my cost. So that is their focus. The focus is not about creating an environment conducive for the production areas.
Okay.
So that ought to be addressed. Then, if we are processing, then that creates ready market for our farm produce. So because we are not processing, very few processing entities are in the country, and then their capacity is also not the best. And then efficiency and coordination is needed. And when I say so, even those limited processing facilities we have in the country, there are times that they say they don't have input when the things are rotting. So there should be some efficiency mechanism and coordination to ensure that those limited long-term markets that are created are such that they will be able to encourage farmers to produce for them to buy. In some countries, what they have done, which we have attempted to do in this country, but I don't know how efficient it is now. If we were to be working very well, it should have been coming up. What they call commodities exchange, just like we have the stock exchange. So what happens? The approach that Cocoa Board uses. What Cocoa Board does when we talk about syndicated loan will come for the farming season. It's just a matter of going to London or wherever, meet the financier interested in cocoa industry. Then we tell them that this is the quality of cocoa we have, and this is the ton of cocoa we can produce. So we enter into some price determination and the quantity that investors are interested in. So we determine the price today. That document is used to source for the funding that comes with, say, cocoa syndicated loan.
Okay.
So countries have translated that into a commodities transaction within the country. So what they do is that we have off-takers. Those off-takers could be big shops in the country. Those off-takers could be the processing plants, processing entities we have in the country. So they sign an agreement with farmers. They determine the price. The farmers take that document to the bank. Because the issue with the financial institution providing facilities to farmers is not because they cannot, but because they believe the risk is related to marketing rather than the willingness of the farmers to repay. Because if you send a document to a bank that, let's say, Shopping Accra Mall, which is known, they know how it is performing, etc. They know the rate at which things stay in the shop and picked by consumers or customers. If you bring an off-taker agreement between you as a farmer either a commercial farmer or whatever, that I'm a producer for Accra Mall. I have entered into this agreement, and I will be paid per ton of whatever I produce, this price. The bank knows that you have a market, so they don't have problem. So these are some of the issues that we need to tackle.
But that's what I was talking about, the ready market I'm talking about, because the farmers probably, like you said.
So that's what I said, the ready market
is
there, and some are short term because of our consumption.
Okay.
But we can elongate the market by providing storage facility processing. Okay. So when we have enough processing facilities in the country, we have elongated the period of the market.
Oh, all right. Okay. So the farmers are not able to access facility from these banks because the banks do not see, for their willingness, like we've established, yes, they can see they are willing to pay, but how are they going to make the money, recoup the money, whatever it is, and then get back?
That is linked to market.
That's linked to market.
So therefore,
shouldn't the government come in? For instance, government to step in and say, fine, I'm going to take the responsibility of providing the market, ensuring these things, and the banks can guarantee for the farmers to also to do. Because most of these farmers, the last time one of these, I think he won one of these national farm, was crying that if you look at his acres of land and what he's doing, he needs support. But when he goes to the banks, they deny him of the support simply because the bank cannot guarantee if he will be able to pay. But he is telling them that this is my land, this is what I'm doing, and they think that no, if you produce all these things, who is going to buy?
That's the point I'm making. So we need to link. That's what I told you, that the two important things stated in Article 36, that is in the 1992 Constitution, about managing the economy, industrialization, and agriculture. So if you industrialize, I'm not even talking about creating complex industries, complex factories. No. If we have a number of factories processing our agricultural produce, that is a huge market. So when you link agriculture with industry, you have created the market. But where you are not linking agriculture with industry,
that's the problem.
That's where the market will not be there.
So you live in the central region. A Kumfi juice is in central region, right? It's a factory that the government claims is one of the 1D1F. So all these fruits that you mentioned, watermelon and cominin and all these things, can't we set government decide, fine, this is what I want to do, and then all the farmers who are cultivating either mango or this thing, we will buy your produce, and then we will just process them, so that gives them can't that thing be done?
That's a good idea, but there are things that I don't believe that government doesn't have any incentive to engage in business. I believe government can engage in business, but with some limitation.
Okay.
So the moment government is going all out, you see inefficiency and failure. So you talk about the buffer stock.
Yeah, buffer, okay.
That is wholly government.
Yeah.
It is inefficient. So if you escalate that, the inefficiency will engulf us. So what I'm talking about is government. I think government claim that they are constructing warehouses in certain areas. You went to some district, you see some warehouse there, and then you ask yourself, what is it doing there? What are they going to put there? But if you go to the market, you will see that most of the items that we have, they are stored in warehouses across the country before they release to the market. Some of them are the job that individuals are doing is to construct warehouses certified by customs, and people come and put their things in and they release to the market. So creating the environment where the private sector will know that warehousing storage facility for agricultural commodities is worthwhile. That is what we think should happen.
Okay.
But if we leave all that in the hands of government, inefficiency will engulf us, corruption will engulf us. It will be more areas where we post government officials or party officials to come and benefit from their role they play in their political parties. I said, so that is the issue.
Okay.
Then there's another huge thing. How do we facilitate and finance food supply through our secondary schools in the country?
Yeah. So you are talking about the catering, school feeding.
Yes,
program.
all those things.
Okay.
In some countries, they will be zoned and linked to farmers within that enclave, and they are suppliers. They have standards, okay, that they have to meet. If they can't meet the standard, upon looking on them for some time, they disqualify them. Okay, so if you go to some countries, a farmer is producing milk, fresh milk, to a particular shop, or maybe one or two shops within that community, and that's what they do.
Oh, okay.
I get the point. So we need to restructure
the whole thing. You're
the
talking about this one is about the eggs. We know this school feeding, but we give eggs to this case.
Yes.
So we can have our poultry farmers here, tax them, and then the local poultry farmers, that is, you are supplying eggs across the whole country for schools, because everywhere in this country we have these schools there, and government spends huge sums of money to feed them. So that can also be done, and at the same time, like we said, create jobs also for people.
Yes.
Okay, but Prof, let's move on. The second driver of this inflation has to do with transportation. And if you look at transportation, for instance, 35.5, that was how it went up in April. But in March, it was 17.4. So it jumped from 17.4 in March to 33.5 in April. Now, the transportation, this is one thing, I will come to that, but this is one thing Mr. Oforiatta said, it's an imported inflation, because we don't have control over our crude, right? And that's the reason. And he has termed some of these things as dreaded 3Fs. He say ministers of finance, now finance ministers on the African continent have described this as the dreaded 3Fs, that food, transport, and then he talked about physical weakness. I'm talking about financial weakness and that kind of thing. So talking about transportation, it's one area that it looks like the government is helpless what to do, and what can we also do if we still want to control the inflation?
Yeah, I think transportation is only bastardized because transportation doesn't stand on its own. Transportation stands on many things. Spare parts.
Okay.
So if your economy is such that it's not able to absorb shock, and it's reflecting in depreciation, import of spare parts into the country will be costly. That will be computed into price determination. So that is it. And depreciation is such that the government has a role to play to contain it. There's an aspect of depreciation that the government doesn't have control over. But there's an aspect that the government has control to deal with. For example, if you import spare parts costly because of depreciation, it is the government, if you look at budget, government have always been indicating projection as to what they would do to which means they believe they can do something about, which is true, but there is an aspect they cannot do anything about. So we want to see those aspects working. So that is one challenge. Now, the cost of import of spare parts into the country also depends on the kind of taxes you impose on importation. That government has control over. So government cannot say it's helpless, it cannot do anything. In the same vein, when you come to another thing that influences transportation or transport fare in the country, that is fuel. The fuel too, government has control over an aspect, but doesn't have control over global price determination. But it is not merely the international crude price that only determines the fuel price. Depreciation is part.
That's the depreciation of our currency.
Yes, our own taxes that we impose
on the petroleum product.
Yes.
But you see, let me just ask you, these taxes is what President Kufuor said, that if they make an attempt to remove these taxes, there are about 9 taxes, and if you look at the quantum of these taxes, it's about 2 point something cedis or something. And for me, it is insignificant, if you ask me. So the president is saying, if I remove these taxes, then we are going to lose over 4 point something billion Ghana cedis, right? And it means we are not going to be able to pay even workers. So why should we focus on the removal of taxes, but not think about how we will restructure and restate TOR, to put life into TOR, to make TOR work, rather than thinking about everybody's talking this insignificant figure.
Well, I think a point of correction, those figures are not insignificant.
Why?
We have those items, their effect is determined by what we call volumetric effect. Volumetric because the quantity that you consume will determine the amount of money you spend or gain.
Oh, okay.
So you need to look at it from the perspective of how much of fuel do we consume
a day.
So if so it is not about
so you don't look at it that way.
No.
Oh, okay.
If you look at it that way,
you get it wrong. You always think that it's not necessary.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, like I was saying, restructuring TOR is something which is under the control of government. So there are a lot of things government can do. So the taxes, restructuring the taxes, restructuring TOR, and the rest. But what the president says is a fact relating to the financial problem his government faces. So the government needs more revenue. So what he's saying in reality is that, look, removing it is not a problem. But when I remove it, I need 4.5 billion. Where will I get it from? That is the reason why I will not remove it. It does not mean that it is not under your control.
But you don't know where he's going to get that money.
The extra money from. Okay. That is why. So what it means is that we are using fuel pricing as a means of generating revenue.
Where there are other ways we can generate revenue.
Yes. So that is the challenge.
But Prof, where can we generate money from? Revenue.
Well, other people are generating revenue through the frantic working of the economy. When other countries like the US says the economy will grow by 1%, they can tell you the amount of revenue that 1% will bring and where it will be coming from. Ask me if we have ever been able to indicate publicly that our economy grew by so and so percent, or we expect our economy to grow by this percentage, and that will bring new revenue of this amount, and that will give us new opportunities that people will engage in, and that opportunity will realize projected revenue of this. Those are the things that we need to do. So the reason why when the growth of the economy is robust, everybody will be happy is because it will help to generate new jobs, it will create new opportunities, and it will bring in expanded revenue. So the economy is what we should focus on.
Okay.
But because that is not happening, so what we do is our people talking so much. So if they're talking every day, they like talking to each other on phone. So why can't they collect some money from that activity? So we go there. Oh, now they are sending money to each other. It's easy for them. Even when we tax them, some people drop. A chunk of people will still remain. Let me go there.
So the government has chosen the easiest way of generating revenue.
Yes.
Instead of maybe going through the proper way where we think we can make enough.
Yes. So they will not tell you that they have expanded the industrial base, and as a result, that will generate this amount of revenue.
1D1F is supposed to do that.
Yeah, but it's not doing it. You see, those policies are good policies because they fall in line with the industrialization policy.
Yeah.
But you yourself know, majority of those 1D1F are just existing businesses. Some don't even have any problem. But they just say, no, I like you, I want you to be part of the 1D1F. They pat their back. They are gone. They are part of the 1D1F. But that's not what we want. We want frantic 1D1F. Frantic 1D1F. That will contribute to economic activities. You get the point? So that is what we should be doing. So you see, we shouldn't joke with everything, and we shouldn't play politics with everything. See, if you go and commission somebody's existing company, who do you think you are?
But if that company, the state decides that let us revamp this company, make this company strong. Maybe the company is down, it's not doing anything.
The state is not a Father Christmas.
It's not a Father, but that's your
so
PPA,
the state
partnership.
PPA. I think you have not read the PPA Act. The PPA Act is about infrastructure and strategic services.
Not,
so if
not
somebody,
existing ones.
If somebody is telling you that he has entered into PPA in 1D1F because he has given money to a business to sustain, then the person has not read the PPA Act. The purpose of the PPA Act is to engage in strategic infrastructure. So all those people who are talking about PPAs, public-private partnership, it's like, excuse my language, it's like we don't know what we're talking about. That is not the essence of the PPA. The PPA Act was passed in 2020 December, and it will be on the drawing board at various stages since 2012. So we should be very clear. When we are talking about PPA, we are talking about how government will enter into agreement with the private sector to construct rail from here to wherever, to construct road from here to wherever. You understand? To put up infrastructure that is so needful and can contribute to the economy, but we do not have money readily. But we may have other resources that we combine effort with the private sector. That is what the PPP is about. But these days you hear people
talking about
PPP anyhow.
You are watching ASEM Dika. My guest is Professor John Gatsi, an economist, lecturer at University of Ghana, Dean of School of Business.
I'm from University of Cape Coast.
University of Cape Coast, sorry. Prof is from University of Cape Coast. Okay, so he's my guest here. We are looking at the general outlook of Ghana's economy, issues that have come up recently. One of them has to do with our inflation, which is now 23.6. And we are looking at the drivers of this inflation, and we've talked about, first we mentioned about the food prices, and we are looking at transportation. That is what Prof is taking us through to understand the nitty-gritty of it.
So the summary there is that this issue, this is not the first time they are affecting us.
These drivers?
Yes.
Okay.
So the question is, what do we do so that at the future time,
you will not
the effect will not be the way it has been all. So that is the question we have to answer. That is the question that should bother the mind of the government. That is the question that will bother those in opposition who are also thinking of taking over. Because these things will not escape any government.
Definitely, it will be there.
Yes.
Prof, you are on record to have said, I think a week or so, or a few days ago, that it looks like the Ministry of Finance has misdiagnosed the economy. They don't have the right therapy for the economy. Imani Ghana, 2 days ago, or just so, they have also come out with a survey. It's called 2022 Physical Recklessness Index, where they have also said that indeed the Ministry of Finance has failed for losing close to about 11 billion Ghana cedis. And this, they are not saying the Ministry of real time people have chopped the money, but what they are saying that other agencies that fall under ministry, we talk about GRA, we talk about this and this, all that they do. So they see that indeed it's one area that the period is between 2015 and 2020. That is their survey where they did. But I'm just looking at what you said, because you just said something that let's look at the solution to this, because this problem will still be with us. Which party takes over? Even if it's MPP is going to remain in power or another party is taking over, this will. So how do you? So was it the reason you said the way they have diagnosed, if I'm to borrow your word, diagnose the economy is not proper? Because if you go to hospital and you are diagnosed it's not proper, definitely the prescription of medicine for you will also not be too good for you. It may even worsen your situation. Is it the case?
Well, I think I didn't speak to any issue about Ministry of Finance.
Okay.
It is related to Bank of Ghana.
Okay.
And what I said was the Bank of Ghana may be misdiagnosing the problem relating to inflation, because the policy measures they have taken sought to deal with inflation. And my candid position was that those measures are not meant to deal with inflation, because they are looking at inflation from liquidity point of view, and I'm looking at inflation being fueled from cost issues. So interest rate is a cost to the businessman. So if you increase yes, so if you increase the policy rate and the lending rate follows, what happens? The cost of borrowing goes up. What will happen to the pricing?
To definitely go up.
To go up. And that is what we will call inflation. Then they have also taken measures to limit the ability of the commercial banks to lend money to the system. And how did they do that? They increase the cash reserve of the Bank of Ghana by 4 percentage points. Of course, it was 10%. They reduced it to 8% during the COVID period. And when they were reversing it, they should have just reversed it to the pre-COVID period of 10%.
Okay.
But they now increase it from 8% to 12%. Now that cash reserve, what it means is that when you mobilize deposit, a certain percentage is kept at the Bank of Ghana for protection purposes. Now what it means is that if you raise, let me just assume a gross figure without going into detail. If you raise 10 million, what it means is that 10% of the 10 million will be kept with the Bank of Ghana. So what it means that the 10 million is not available for you to lend, because their thinking is that they're dealing with liquidity to control inflation. So you see people holding government contract, but they cannot execute because the banks may not be able to give them the funds. And at the same time, government itself has increased treasury bill rate as we speak to around 18%, moving away around 14% within the past 3 months, running to 18%. That is huge jump, right? Mm-hmm. And that huge jump, it means that the treasury bill is supposed to be the base, the lowest. Mm-hmm. So what do you think the lending rate will be? Up. It goes up. And treasury bill rate is actually for in the interest of government. So they are now taking the money with the high rate, taking the money available through treasury bill rate, and the businesses are supposed to go to the commercial banks and take it at lending rate higher, which you have even weakened the ability of the commercial bank to have enough money available for lending. So those are the technical issues I was analyzing. Okay. That, in my opinion, the Bank of Ghana may be misdiagnosing the problem. And it's not a statement made just because I want to make a statement. These are the explanations that you've given.
So if you look at the policy rate now, I think this year they've done it twice. They did it first. It was I think it was 14.5, and they raised it to 17, and now from.
And the interesting thing is that the day that I made that statement, I was on the program with the director in charge of research at the Bank of Ghana.
Okay.
And I explained that there is a pass-through effect of any policy measure you take. So sometimes it can take 3 months, 6 months. But he explained that the policies that they are putting in place, they expect that between 3 to 9 months they should be working.
Between 3 to 9 months.
It should be working.
We should see dividends of all that they are doing.
Yes. So what it means is that whatever they claim they are doing now, it's not meant for today.
Okay.
It's meant for a future date. And that is also problematic because if you increase the policy rate by 250 basis points and it created all those problems, and you have increased it again by 200 basis points.
Yeah.
What do you think? You are accumulating the pass-through effects. So those are the analysis that I did to come to that conclusion that Bank of Ghana may be misdiagnosing the situation.
What cure can we prescribe for our economy?
Well, the cure is not straightforward because all those things happening, they are not the fault of Bank of Ghana in any way. We create a certain problem or a certain fallout came into the economy that affect their work, and they are trying their best to resolve it. But they are not the one who create some of the problems. For example, if you look at the pressure of repayment of loans and the high level of the loans, Bank of Ghana is not the one who take decision I want to borrow. It is the government of Ghana. Okay, if you are not producing your agricultural produce in the country, even though you have the ability to do so, and you are not producing, if you not be able to make agriculture attractive to your young men to engage in production, if you are not being able to secure land that will be readily available for commercial agriculture, etc., to young men and women, if you are not being able to give orientation to your people as done in other countries, like young men loving to go into agriculture, people in key public offices will not talk in public if they don't have commercial farms. go to Nigeria and see many military officers. They can't talk in public if they don't have farms. Yes, go to Cote d'Ivoire here. Senior civil servant all have farms. That's the orientation. So if you're not be able to do all this kind of orientation, that is not the doing of Bank of Ghana. They are only doing their best to solve.
Is the doing of the policymakers?
Yes. Yes. So it is not even an attack on Bank of Ghana. The point I was making is that their solution
to the
problem is
something that you have
a problem with. And I'm not sure they have problem with my statement.
Okay. So, Prof, we are looking at it 2024
because you remember Bank of Ghana has indicated, I think 2 or 3 days ago, that they are willing to come out with new measures.
Yeah. Yes, they are still trying.
Yes.
Is it try and lock kind of thing they are doing or they are just trying because that's why some people like.
Well, I think there is another thing that I stated. Maybe the paper which reported, somebody sent it to me yesterday.
Okay.
I have not even seen that paper before. Economic Times.
Yeah. It's a new paper.
It's a new paper. Yeah. Which captured it. There is a very important statement I made, which was not even captured. I made a point that Bank of Ghana should not behave as if they have,
answers to everything.
Answers to everything. They don't.
Okay.
Because some of the issues, for example, if you take demanding in excess foreign currency for import. If somebody makes policy to ensure that we are producing enough fruit juice in the country, will you see people importing fruit juice?
No.
Yes. So why should Bank of Ghana behave as if they can solve that problem? Are you getting the point?
Mm-hmm.
So I also brought a solution. The solution is that, see, there should be continuous engagement and coordination of policy. It is only then that the effort of Bank of Ghana will, because if not so, people will be somewhere thinking when it comes to depreciation, it's the Bank of Ghana. But you can't solve depreciation only with the policies from Bank of Ghana. Those policies from Bank of Ghana, are they incentivizing production? Are you getting the point?
Yeah.
So it's not Bank of Ghana alone's issue. And they should have that realization.
Okay. So, but Prof, my problem is you are talking about this Bank of Ghana, people working there, maybe fantastic people with good brains and all kind of things. What I have realized, I have seen in this country, that we have the lies of you and others. One day, maybe a party comes to power and say, I need the service of Professor John Gatsi because of his knowledge in economics and that kind of thing. Come and assist us. You join them. And all this brilliant idea that you have that you can help move this country, you will not be allowed to do that. You have the party apologists who will say, no, this is how we do things. Because we've seen it in this government. We saw it in the previous government, where people who could have helped, but one way or the other, they were stopped, told that it's politics. It's not about your technocrat ideas, your technical know-how, or what you can do, ABCD, but it's what we intend to do as a party in power. Somebody like Mr. or Dr. Baumia, he served, we all know on record that one time a governor, deputy governor, right, of Bank of Ghana, somebody that they touted that he even helped Kufuor's government when he was deputy governor. That was probably why Akufo-Addo saw him and said that this guy will be too good. He came into the government, certain policies, certain economic decisions. I will not sit here and say that maybe if he were still with Bank of Ghana, he would even support them. You understand it? Others have also been the. So my point is, why then when people with such brilliant and such fantastic ideas to help take our economy forward, when they are called to serve, then all of a sudden they lose focus and they start following the bandwagon and doing the same thing the politicians do.
Well, I think we don't have a structure. If you go to many countries, like we have discussed agriculture, broadly they have those structures in place. Okay, so it is easy. But where it is just politics as usual, that is why we have this impediment. And so that is why those who are thinking to lead should just appreciate that there is a structure that an economy can follow to deliver the benefit that citizens want.
Okay.
So that is the key thing. I wouldn't want to talk about Dr. Bawumia because I've not heard him provided the solutions to our country. What I've heard him provided was what was the problem for the country, how debt to GDP was high, how they would not borrow, and then even when it came to government, he took certain things so lightly, like I've arrested the CD, it will not depreciate.
I've arrested the dollar.
The dollar, I've given the key to this thing. So you can't say that when he was in opposition talking, he has actually provided concrete solutions. What we are talking about concrete solutions that we should. And the next thing that I will talk about is that, see, when you read the Constitution, I think, okay, I wouldn't want to mention the article to make mistake. It's either in Article 182, 183, or yes, Article 182, 183, where we talk about the Bank of Ghana, the mandate. Two mandates clearly spelled out in the Constitution: price stability and economic development. So I am expecting a time when the Bank of Ghana will come to that realization to say that, look, anytime the prices of tomatoes is up, people complain. So when they study the pattern of inflation, especially for food items, then all the profit they are now declaring, the Bank of Ghana is declaring profit and paying dividend also. If you want to ensure economic development, you must participate. So part of their portfolio of funds can be directed to real sector economic activity, maybe in agriculture. You see, the Bank of Ghana, through social responsibility, have put up a clinic that is directly in the economy. They should identify other areas that their excess fund can be invested into and made to bring some stability in certain areas of the economy. That is what I believe the Constitution requires from them, and not only price stability.
Okay.
It is happening in Kenya. It can be done here
In Ghana.
in Ghana.
All right, Prof, my time is almost up, and my question is, looking at where we are now, and like you said, when the last time you had the discussion with an officer from Bank of Ghana saying the policy that they are putting in place is a long-term policy that we will see the dividends maybe in 9 months or something. That's all. Now Ghanaians want to know whether there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because what everybody is saying is that, you remember recently Oforiatta came out and then gave some measures. I said to mitigate the hardship and all this. People are not feeling it. I myself, those things that he mentioned, I thought I will start feeling it maybe a month later. But still, it looks like the things are even getting worse. You understand it? So the question, therefore, is the future of our economy.
See, the economy is not about some weird data gathering.
What do you mean by weird data gathering?
Yes, so you can come and say that the inflation rate is here, or is low, or is high. You can say that, oh, mobile money transaction is this and that. If you are an economist, you don't appreciate the theory put forward by Abraham Maslow, where he stratified the needs of human beings. Some are very low, some are up there. And those who are the lower level are so many. They are the vulnerable. The need for food, shelter, and job. If an economy is not delivering on that economy is a threat to the people. You read Article 36(1). The essence of economic management is to make citizens happy, have access to sound jobs. So, no matter what you are doing, if you are not able to meet the requirement of Abraham Maslow, you are not benefiting the people, and we need to just appreciate that. So that is why if it is good to have flyovers in Accra, Tamale. So what we are doing, we are selecting the cities, okay, but it is not the best when your food producing areas don't have access to clinics, don't have access to processed food, don't have access to shelter, and don't have access to good roads to continue the economic activity. This is a basic thing that all of us should appreciate. Okay. And so when we are putting in place economic structure, these are the things that should inform us. And when we fail at doing these things, then something is called intervention or social intervention that will come. Then we are piloting and we say we are doing it. Now, let me ask you, the Ghanaian children we have since we started school feeding, do you think that the Ghanaian children who should have access to school feeding are having access? Answer is no. So we just do those things haphazard and talk about it as if we are meeting
the needs of the people.
The needs of the people. No. There are many things like that.
Okay.
There are many things like that. So I think that as a finance and economic person, I am guided by some of these basic principles. Okay. And if that eludes you, you'll be working for yourself. You can come to public and say, and then we are borrowing 2 billion, and we have this project, and this project will be this billion. We are borrowing 50 years, we are borrowing 100 years. If those things don't relate to Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Okay. Professor John Gatsi, lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, Dean of School of Business. He has been my guest, and we are grateful to him. Wow, share me anywhere with me. ASEM the can any other. We will have another day with Prof. Na ya share nema. We are all trying. These are suggestions and solutions, and one more name the first come one more church. Igneji tun se baby a jina sabi a jina biano enye. The reason is simple. Say or mampani ni na bedi a chile or mama count na ajia to say 10 are not working. Of course, they have given excuses, reasons in here but people like Professor Gatsi and including my good self grab it says our reason Ukraine and Russia will fine. After but see yeah, we will not always blame Ukraine, blame COVID. And then COVID you class occur. And so I think so we need to do, and I want to believe say a buy move for 8 year sharing. These are things we find out the year Juma. It doesn't mean say we need Juma. We are all Ghanaians, and ye penny ye, a person mine and cost say me call market, let me to meet to also call market me to her. You know any budget. And that's the Prof. We are grateful to you. Thank you for your time and everything. Madam producer, Nana to for say more to share so na me inshramu in our mama send a message. God bless you. Meda cameraman Frank and Kweku and him as say Mustafa. I thank you. That was also time say now we are Juma said the SO yen na nyame ya duma wachina no me ensa sa yini ehyiemu ewo ha na yemfa ASEM di kama mediane Accra Atakweku Bodi ma monitor ahenewa.
Panama,